of the crash Saturday night that killed Diana, Princess of Wales, and Dodi Fayed come from a doctor who happened on the scene before police and ambulances arrived. He has spoken with French television. Bill Ritter has details of that interview from Paris. Bill, good morning.
Good morning again, Charlie. It's a dramatic story. This doctor just happens on the scene a couple minutes later. He goes to the car, looks inside, sees 2 people are dead, 2 people are injured, and he starts giving first aid to the woman. His name is Dr. Frédéric Miaillet. He gave an interview to French television. You're going to hear him speaking in French. We've got a translator's voice over it. A dramatic story. He says he had no idea that the woman whose life he was trying to save was Princess Diana.
There was smoke coming out of the airbag, so I stopped to check it out. There were a lot of people crowded around. There was great panic. I saw there were 2 people already dead and 2 more seriously wounded, so I went back to my car to call the paramedics and to get some emergency equipment I had. Then I returned to the crash site to start administering first aid. There was already a young fireman there who was taking care of the victim in the front passenger seat, the bodyguard, and I started to take care of the young lady in the back seat, Princess Diana, though I didn't recognize her right away.
What did you do to help her?
She was in an awkward position, like this, so I helped to open up her airways. Even though she was unconscious, she was moaning and flailing around a lot, and in that position you can't breathe, so I pulled her head back and put an oxygen mask on her face.
Were there a lot of photographers around the car?
There were a lot of photographers, about 10 to 15 of them, I'd say, and they were firing off pictures pretty quickly.
Did they bother you in your attempts to help?
No, they didn't really bother me. They were just like any other bystanders coming across a serious traffic accident. No different from any other bystanders, really.
Except they were the first on the scene, Charlie, and now this is what this judge is going to look at on possible charges of manslaughter and violating the Good Samaritan rule. They were interested in taking pictures of the crime scene rather than helping the victims. One other note, Charlie, there's been much criticism of the police that they didn't get here. It took a long time for them to get here. I believe this was just to them another traffic accident on a Saturday night. As we understand it, Princess Diana didn't let officials here know she was visiting, had no idea, they didn't have any idea she was here. They made no special arrangements for security. That was all left to her own private security guards and those of her boyfriend.
All right, Bill Ritter in Paris, thank you very much.
Our weekly program Impact continues in a moment. Here's what's coming up.
Dr. Miaillet ran into the tunnel, desperate to save the life of a woman he didn't know was a princess.
She had difficulties to breathe and she moved a little bit, so I helped her to breathe.
He had no idea who she was, only remembers people behind him taking pictures. He heard someone say, "Talk to her in English."
I began to ask her some questions and I began to give her some comfort with some words.
New details are emerging about the night Princess Diana and Dodi Fayed were killed in a car accident in Paris 2 weeks ago. Details provided by the first doctor on the scene, a passerby who stopped to help. With our CNN and Time magazine joint investigation, here's Art Harris.
We have been reporting this evening
Diana has been seriously injured in
Dodi Al-Fayed apparently was killed in the crash.
The accident occurred just after midnight Paris time.
Play back the images from that tragic night. Princess Diana and Dodi Fayed arrive at the Ritz. And there's the man who would drive them, Henri Paul. To dodge paparazzi, they leave out the back door, speed off into the night, past the Place de la Concorde, hurtling toward death in this tunnel. What's striking about that night is how many questions remain. If Henri Paul was drunk, why was he driving? Just who made that decision? And what happened at the scene of the wreck as Princess Diana lay dying?
I tried to make her feel comfortable.
That night, Dr. Frédéric Miaillet was going through the tunnel the other way when he saw the crash. A mangled car, bodies, and blood. Trained as an emergency physician, he parked and called for help.
I said, listen, there is a severe car crash here on the Pont de l'Alma. There are 2 people severely injured. I need 2 emergency ambulances.
Maillet grabbed his doctor's bag, ran back to the wreck. There he found the driver and 1 passenger dead. A volunteer fireman was working on a man badly injured in the front seat. The woman in the back was down on the floor, her head bent forward. He lifted it and gave her oxygen.
She had difficulties to breathe, and she moved a little bit. So I helped her to breathe.
He had no idea who she was, only remembers people behind him taking pictures. He heard someone say, "Talk to her in English."
I began to ask her some questions, and I began to give her some comfort with some words. Yeah.
Maillet won't say if she responded or what she might have said. That's confidential. Doctor-patient relationship. Anything he has to say, he'll tell Diana's sons or Prince Charles.
The most important would be for them, I guess, to know how she was during her last moment. And that would be my duty to do that.
He struggled to keep her alive for about 15 minutes. It seemed an eternity as he waited for the rescue squads to arrive. Only later did he find out who she was, that she died at the hospital, and wonder, like the rest of the world, why the wreck had happened at all.
Have you thought about this since?
Sure, every minute, every hour of the day.
(10:08), Monsieur Paul returns to the hotel in his car. He walks into the hotel.
Paul had been away from the Ritz for 3 hours, called back after thinking he was off for the night. Police in Paris are trying to reconstruct those missing 3 hours, grilling employees at the Ritz about Paul's drinking habits, if he'd had anything at the hotel that night, questioning people in bars in his nearby neighborhood. Sources tell CNN Paul had become a trusted member of Dodi Fayed's entourage, assistant security manager at the Ritz. But our Time magazine colleague, Tom Sankton, reveals Paul was also a drinker who apparently hid it well.
How you explain it is that he was maybe something of a pub crawler, an occasional drinker who would have, a few drinks here, a few drinks there.
Time magazine tracked Paul to Harry's New York bar.
Now, the owner denies that he was in there, but we have at least 2 sources on staff who said, yes, he was in there from 7:30, roughly, to about 9:45. And during that period, according to one of the bartenders, he had 2 or 3 whiskeys.
Add to that a couple more drinks Time magazine found Paul had earlier at the hotel.
He's not swaying around, he's not leaning or anything. On a couple of occasions, he jogs up the stairs and up the stairs to the Imperial Suite, hands in his pocket, quite jauntily. Clearly not the actions of a man who's under the influence of alcohol.
Yet here's a man who, according to 3 blood tests, was not only way over the legal limit, but had traces of 2 prescription drugs in his blood. How could he look sober to colleagues? Even the Fayed family doesn't dispute Henri Paul could have been drunk when he got back to the Ritz.
Well, naturally, Mohammed is shocked, he's appalled, he's outraged that a man in that condition could get into a car and present himself for work in that way.
It's still not clear who wanted Paul to drive Dodi and Diana that night.
Here you see Ms. Henri Paul checking the road for paparazzi.
Back at the Ritz, the couple wound up dining together in the $8,000 a night Imperial Suite.
They're now leaving the Imperial Suite.
By midnight, Paul swung into action. He snuck them out the back onto the Rue Cambon.
The cars are pulling away quite sedately and quite normally.
Decoy cars out front tried to fool the paparazzi. Fayed officials claim video shows they got tipped and gave chase.
At this very time, when the car was pulling away, people were shouting they're leaving.
But some photographers say they chased the wrong car and came on the accident only by chance. Others say Paul not only dared them to catch him, but left them in the dust. Paris limousine driver Frédéric Chevalier never tries to outrun paparazzi in the streets. He says it's a race you can't win.
He put the pedal on the metal, and after 2 people and him died. For what? For nothing. For nothing.
He drove us on the same route Henri Paul took Dodi and Princess Diana, down Rue Cambon, onto the Place de la Concorde, and into the tunnel. It veers to the left. At the high-speed police guess Paul was going when he crashed, Chevalier says you'd never make it.
The paparazzi, the alcohol, and the speed are not a good marriage. Definitely not a good marriage. It's 3 reasons to go straight on the wall.
Just how close were paparazzi when Paul sped into the tunnel and lost control? Time magazine's Tom Sankton talked to one man who got to the crash scene even ahead of Dr. Maillet.
No big crowd of photographers. He didn't see any motorcycles. And so this is maybe a minute or 2, 3 after the accident. And it tends to corroborate what a lot of the photographers are saying, was that that car
outran him. It was at this point Dr. Maillet ran into the tunnel, desperate to save the life of a woman he didn't know was a princess. Soon after, Paris rescue doctors took over. Diana was still alive. Only the next morning did he learn his patient died a few hours later at the hospital, and that she was Princess Diana.
You did your best as a doctor.
Sure.
And yet, it haunts you. Why?
Because it was a severe accident, because this young princess died. I'm sure the first tragedy is that this young lady died and her 2 sons are without their mother now. That's the first tragedy.